Welcome back to another episode of the Buy Time Podcast. My name is Jacob K. Mead, and I'm excited today because we have a special guest, Teresa Davis. She owns West 40 Market in Ankeny, Iowa. And Teresa, why don't you start with telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a mother to a wonderful 3-year-old, first and foremost. That keeps me on my toes.
Yes, it does.
It does. So I own West 40 Market. I have a history in working in corporate, and so this was not like where I wanted to go or where I intended to go. But I started the business about 2 years ago and run that out of Ankeny. I keep busy between that and obviously raising a kid, and so. Between those two things, that's pretty much
splitting a lot of time between personal life, running, being a mom to kids, and then also running a business. And so, what does your business do?
Yeah, so we are actually all Iowa, first and foremost. So we specifically have cuts of beef, pork, chicken, bison, lamb, turkey, all raised on Iowa farms from start to finish. We support between 5 and 7 Iowa farmers, depending on the time of year. And so we sell all of those individual cuts that people can come in and get. We also have about a dozen Iowa businesses that we support as well.
So it's like fresh cuts too.
No fresh cuts.
Okay.
So we aren't an actual butcher shop. We don't have a fresh butcher counter. The way that we approach it is that we take everything to the locker about every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Everything's cut specific to what we have in the store. They double wrap it. It's packaged. We bring it back and we stock the shelves. So it's actually all frozen. Other than like the beef sticks, jerky, we have some grab and go stuff like that. But it's all frozen so that people can plan ahead for meals. We also do like a lot of bulk sales, so if people want to have fill their freezer full or want to buy a big bundle of meat or something like that to kind of stock up, they can do that and then basically shop from their freezer.
That's important, especially if you have kids.
Yes.
You can go to the freezer, grab what you need, and
absolutely.
My wife's always guilty of not putting the meat out the night before, so we're always like, oh man, we forgot to do this. And so that's awesome. And so you own West 40 Market. How long have you had it for?
2 years. So we just recently celebrated our 2-year anniversary.
Congratulations. Huge accomplishment, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what everybody said. They're like, wow, you're still around. Like, yeah, yes, I am. So, 2 years in, we spent about 3 to 4 months kind of renovating the place. So I've been into it for about 2.5 years or so.
Renovation process is sometimes awesome to see that where it started and where it's at now.
Yes.
And remember, hey, it used to be this way and now we're here.
Yeah. It was a gun shop before I moved in there.
Really?
So,
my goodness.
And I mean, really great people that owned it, but just atrocious like carpet and, orange and red walls.
Not upkept very well. So you're like, we have to redo all of this.
Yeah. So did some work in there. So.
Oh, that's amazing. So what got you started? Like, what was the big spark and the idea to go about opening up West 40 Market?
Sure. Yeah. So the meat, specifically the beef and the chicken, come from my parents' farm. So my mom and my dad moved my brother and I out to a farm when we were teenagers. So I didn't grow up on a farm, but I spent the latter part of my teenage years living on the farm. And we had cows. And so it kind of was just a hobby farm.
So you're a farm girl.
You could call me a farm girl. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I lived on a farm, yes. But it was kind of basically a hobby of my dad's, and we would butcher beef to basically just feed ourselves, and we'd give it to people in the community, things like that. So it kind of started to grow from there when people started to ask for, can I get a quarter beef or can I get individual cuts? So kind of fast forward, then I graduated, moved down to Des Moines after college. I have fashion design and merchandising. So I literally had this is as far left or right as I could have gone. So but got done with college, moved down to the Des Moines area. And at the time, my parents were really interested in kind of selling individual cuts. And I said, well, there's nothing around here like that. Unless you know a farmer, there's nowhere to go in the Des Moines area, at least at the time, to where you can really get, like you can walk into a brick and mortar and get access to all Iowa raised meats and know exactly what farms they came from. So we started off at the Des Moines Farmers Market. It's kind of how we started to getting into it. And I thought, let's just see if there's a market for this. Obviously there were other vendors there doing the same thing, but I did that for 4 seasons before COVID. And kind of built a customer base there and loved it. So it was a full-time vendor at the farmer's market. COVID hit, basically just kind of sold it out of my house. I, would take calls from people, like regulars being like, can I meet you in the parking lot for 10 pounds of ground beef? I mean, legit.
You're a meat seller in the parking lot.
This is exactly how it
showing
went
up
down.
with a brown bag.
Yes,
I love
it's
it.
exactly how it went down. We always joke and tell people, I'll meet you in the parking lot, or I'll meet you in a dark alley somewhere. And people laugh. I'm like, no, really, this is what I
I'll
did.
sell you the product.
Yeah. But whatever in my head, I thought, gosh, I just felt like there was a really good market for it. And so for me, that was kind of trying to build that clientele. I worked a full-time corporate job at the time, which I assumed that was going to be my career. Never in a million years did I think I was going to actually open up a brick and mortar, but I kept kind of having this drive maybe, or this something that was telling me there's something here. Like, I feel like there's a place for this to go. And so fast forward then to during COVID, I was out on maternity leave, and obviously everybody was, at home, and I got the call that I got laid off from my job. So yeah, for the second time, but that's a different story for a different day. But I honestly, I thought this has got to be my kick. Like, somebody's giving me the push
to
just go do it.
Go do
Absolutely.
what you want to do and what you've always wanted to. Now you have the opportunity.
I have the opportunity. Yeah. And I honestly don't know if I would have ever done it on my own. I don't know if I would have been brave enough to quit a very good full-time job, benefits, everything. Just had a new baby, and people think I'm nuts, right? So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I got the LLC going, and scouted out some locations, of where I wanted to kind of put my store, and kind of went from there.
So I love that. And I can think back when I was first starting my business and kind of the struggles that I was going through. And I like to say it's a roller coaster of emotions. One day you think you have it, and then the next day you think that you're failing, and then it's just constantly up and down. So talk to me about how you overcame those roller coaster of emotions. Did you have a support group, or who was there to kind of help you through those tough days that said, Teresa, you can do this?
Yeah. So first of all, I still have yet to overcome them. I don't really think you ever do.
No, you never do. It gets easier over time. It's like the coaster isn't as steep. It's like somewhat more down, but
yes,
it's something you never overcome.
Yeah.
But what kind of group did you have in place to kind of help you through that?
Yeah. So, fantastic family and friends, first of all. People that believe in you and continue to kind of clap for you, give you ideas, whatever it may be. People that also don't let you just give up and walk away, right? People that are going to remind you, like, yes. Yeah. And people are going to remind you and say, hey, remember that one time about 6 months ago when you were feeling kind of the same way? And then look what happened, right? You came back from that. So I think it's important to have those kind of people. I also really tapped into a lot of other small business owners. I started to kind of get out there and network and go to events or whatever it might have been, and ask around and say, okay, you've owned a business, and it was obviously no business anything like mine, but still you're a business owner, right? And so I'd throw ideas out at them, or I'd be like, do you think this is crazy? Or like, how do I even find a brick and mortar to put my store? Or do you think this price sounds pretty fair, for rent? I had never rented a property. I didn't know. So even things like that of just, somebody that can offer you advice, maybe somebody that's been there, and can kind of say it's going to get better, or these are really hard decisions, but just make it and go with it. And you can always, maybe just giving you some encouragement.
Those connections.
You can always
back out too. It makes a big difference to have 100%. That connection and be around other people who've done the same thing, and that way they can help you through it, and they know what you're going through. I understand that. A roller coaster of emotions, it's tough.
Yeah.
You think one minute you got this, and the next minute you don't. And
yes.
I still go through that myself. I'm huge in the sales, and I've been in the sales almost my entire life. And so when I see that we're having a low sales day, it's struggling. That's me feeling like maybe we don't got this. And then the next day, we triple double our sales.
Yep.
And so
100%.
it's amazing to actually hear that story. So your mom and dad, were they entrepreneurs, or what did they do?
No, my dad's a medical doctor.
Oh, awesome.
This is how far away from any of this. Yeah, he was a medical doctor. So when I say our farm was a hobby, it truly was a hobby. Like, we had a couple random pigs, a couple horses, some cows. Like, we were like, whatever, this is great. And it just morphed into what it is now. I call it a happy accident is kind of how I always looked at it. But so my dad is a doctor, medical doctor. My mom spent the better part of my childhood raising myself and my brother, and then she worked at my dad's office. So about 3 years ago, my parents bought the local grocery store in our small town, our hometown. And by small, I mean about 1,000 people on a good day.
Oh, wow. That is small. Yeah.
So small town, Iowa, but they bought the grocery store to save it.
Where at? What?
Green, Iowa.
Green, Iowa.
Yep.
So where exactly is that?
Green is, if you're familiar with the Mason City-ish, Charles City area, it's southeast of there.
Okay.
So directly straight east of Sheffield, if you're familiar with that.
Cool.
So, tiny little town. So they bought the grocery store there about 3 years ago, basically just to save it. Nobody else wanted it. They were going to shut it down, and it would have been a pretty big hit for the community. And so they bought it, they put our meat in there, they sell our meat there, they still own it. So that's what my mom does now. She runs that full time.
So they kind of had the opportunity and they just took it and they didn't know where it was going to go until they started.
No,
that's
that's the kind of people they are. Like they've always been heavily involved in the community, volunteering just a lot, just doing whatever they could to keep the community going and thriving. And so that's what they did. So
that is so cool. So now you have your own store, West 40 Market, and it's in Ankeny. So where at in Ankeny is it located?
It's in Uptown Ankeny.
Uptown Ankeny, yep. Okay. And you guys open 7 days a week, or what are your hours like there?
Yep, so we're Monday through Saturday.
Okay.
So Monday through Friday, 10 to 5, and then Saturday, 10 to 2. And we're also at the Ankeny Farmers Market, so you can find us there too.
That's awesome. So you're still at the farmers market, and you mentioned the farmers market and that there's other people there that do the same thing that you do. So what's something that you are doing in your business that kind of set you apart from all your competitors? Obviously, all Iowa grown, but what's something else that maybe you were doing differently than anyone else?
Yeah, I don't know. I do a lot of like bundles. I do a ton of social media, and I find that
it's so powerful.
It is really powerful, and I find that a lot of farmers, your traditional farmers, I mean, a lot of them don't use social media a lot. And so I think that maybe that's something that does set me apart just a little bit, is that I've got a pretty big outreach from a social media standpoint. We ship nationwide. So you can go on our online store and even buy everything that we have in our store.
Oh, that's so cool. So you don't even need to live in Des Moines or live in Iowa or Ankeny. You can get it anywhere.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So we ship nationwide, and so I think that part of it too sets me apart a little bit, with just having that capability of just you can know your farmer and get access to this no matter where you live. And so I think that piece of it is big. But honestly, I tell people a lot that there's plenty of mouths to feed too. So we're all kind of in it. We're all raising the animals. We're all trying to do what we think is best in this scenario. And really, I don't look at it as competition by any means.
You're all a big group. You're all there to help each other and help each other along the way, because there's plenty out there for everybody.
There's plenty of mouths to feed, and if the farmers don't survive, none of us, if we're not going to be able to do it just by ourselves.
That's
it's
so
gonna
important.
Take all of us to go
that's
at it,
so important in business, is to learn that sometimes your competition isn't your worst enemy.
No,
it can be. If you look at it like that, you're going to go down a very dark trail. It's like your competition is there to also help you, and it's helped you to branch out. It's helped you to grow. So you own West 40 Market, and you mentioned that you're open 6 days a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's staffing like for you? How do you staff? Are you there all the time, or what's kind of that look like for you?
I'm kind of there all the time. So
hey, you're just starting out. You're 2 years in, so I get it. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, I'm there less than what I was a year ago, so
okay,
I feel like
that's
we're
important.
making progress.
Yes.
But the timing of this is kind of interesting, because my goal for 2023 was to really dive into to balance of time, of getting more working on the business versus in the business. And that was a huge goal of mine, and so far so good. So I found somebody really great, a rock star that works at the store for me about 10 to 15 hours a week, and she does most of the farmers markets as well. But it was just a happen chance. She had bought some food one time there, and we happened to be talking, and she was looking for a gig. She's got an agricultural background, so it was kind of just this perfect blend. But so I got her in the store so that I can kind of do behind the scenes things, and try to kind of figure out what that balance looks like, and continue to move the store forward, kind of evolve and all of that. Because otherwise, if I'm there working all day, every day, I don't have a chance to do some of that stuff that's going to continue to move me forward and actually grow the business.
Working on your business versus working on your business. It's so important. I actually teach it in a lot of my workshops that I do, is how you go about buying more time. And that starts with staffing. And it also starts with understanding your value and kind of what you provide, so you know what it's going to take to replace you. And it's so important to have someone there that you can trust and that you can lean on.
Yes.
Talk about how you felt the first time you let her be there and run the show without you being there.
I mean, I get anxiety all the time.
Yeah,
it still is
it
that
isn't
way.
it? And it's almost feeling a guilt too, like overcoming
100%.
that guilt. And that's something I teach in my workshops, like overcoming the guilt. People are like, "What guilt?" I'm like, "You have that feeling," and it's like the pit of I should be there.
I should be there.
And but it's so awesome that you've already done this, and you're less than 3 years in, and you're already learning this at such an early aspect in your business. And I think that's really going to help you grow.
Yeah.
And it's going to help your staff grow too. And so you have one employee right now?
One that works most of the hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have another girl that does a lot of my locker runs. So like
cool.
behind the scenes things, because usually those are entire day events. And so she'll do a lot of the behind the scenes locker runs. And
hey, you can get your time back from having to do that. You
yes,
know,
yes.
Buy your time back there, and that way you have time to work on something else. And that's so important.
Yep.
And learning it so quickly. It's awesome to see. And so you can basically step out of your business. You can let it kind of run. On your 2 years in, what's your future look like with your business? Like, where are you wanting to take this?
That's a great question. I ask myself that a lot. I'd love to open up more locations. I ultimately, my big dream is I want to build my own locker. That's not really feasible right now. I tried to go down that path or start going down that path.
Challenges. It seems like,
oh my gosh. And I mean, from a money standpoint,
yes,
you're talking millions of dollars, and there's just a lot that goes into that. And so I thought, if I'm going to grow my business, I've got fantastic butchers. We use a couple local lockers in Iowa that do the bulk of our processing for us, and like let them be experts in what they do. And work to be a good partner with them and grow maybe the actual just retail front for right now. And so I would love to continue to grow that way and actually expand and have multiple West 40 locations, support more farmers. So I look at what I do as an outlet for local businesses and farmers 12 months out of the year, right? A lot of them use farmers markets, and that's only just a small fraction of the time. And so I wanted to give them visibility and an outlet. And so I look at it and say, if I open up more locations, that's more farmers that I can help to support and move their product a lot more for them.
Supporting one another, helping other businesses and farmers, that's so important.
Yeah.
People sometimes forget that where this food comes from. They go to the grocery store and they just take it off the shelves, but comes from our farmers.
Yep.
And that's so important.
Yep.
And so we talked a little bit about your staffing, and I like to dive a little bit deeper into business struggles and some struggles that you might have, not necessarily every day, but what are some obstacles that you've been able to overcome as a business owner? Because we've all been there. And what's some obstacles that you might have overcome?
Honestly, for me, my biggest obstacle is probably my personal versus my professional. So there's just a lot going on in your personal life, and that can impact my business so much.
It can.
And I'm one of those that, I'll throw it out there. I'm one of those that just like freezes. If I get overwhelmed in my personal life, it's almost like there's so much that's happening up here that I don't know which direction to go.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to start. So I can have like a laundry list of things to do, and I just don't even know where to begin, because it almost like paralyzes me. And so I think that's been a big work-life balance has been a big thing, which is also like having somebody in the store working for me. There are times where I step away and go do a podcast, which is something super fun that I really enjoy doing, or like I'll go get I'll go get my hair done, or I'll go eat lunch.
You're strengthening your staff while you're doing that too, because they know that they can run it without you being there. But
Yes.
You're probably still anxious, like, is that call going to come through,
is
or
it okay?
what's going to happen?
Right here, right? Yeah, right here. But I think that's been really important for me, and by doing that and kind of stepping away just a little bit, giving myself time to kind of clear my head, I'm so much better in my business. I can make better decisions. I can think more creatively. And so I think for me, like that's been, on top of just learning, HR and accounting and all the other things that go into
all the million hats you have to wear. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's mind-boggling.
I really think that balance is so tricky. And quite honestly, like I'm grateful for my child, especially being 3 years old, as challenging as it is, because if I didn't have her, I know I'd be there 24/7, and that's not healthy,
100%. And I was in there. I was in that predicament. Before I had my kids, I was at my business constantly and spending a lot of time in my business. And not that I regret that, but I realize now how much time I spent in there. Yeah. And when I had kids, something went off and a light came on that said, I need to change this. I'm not going to be at work all the time, 24/7, like you said. And I could be. I'm that kind of guy that could. I love working. I see my results, and it's important to know that. And it's the funny thing about kids is they teach you a lot. So I was just saying a couple days ago, like my 3-year-old, she accidentally fell down steps because we were out hiking, and she accidentally fell down steps, and she looked at me and said, "It's okay as long as you get back up." Yeah. And I loved hearing that from her, because it's something I've been telling her, like in my business, I struggle and sometimes I feel like I'm failing and I get knocked down, and I tell her, don't forget, if you get knocked down, get back up.
Yeah.
Can you relate? Like, is there any stories that you can think of maybe
Absolutely.
with your daughter, what she's done?
Yeah. For me personally, she forces me to slow down. She
forces
100%. Me to step away from it, and yeah, she's the same way. Our kids would probably get along really well. She'll fall down and stand back up, and she'll look back and she'll be like, "It's okay, I'm okay, Mom." I'm like,
so
okay, But I think a lot of that translates, and you can probably relate. It translates to my business, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's a don't panic, it's okay. And so I think I take a lot of that from her, and just just the importance of stepping away and just having moments, right? Of not being so ingrained in what I'm doing, or like everyone, I mean, I catch myself on my phone when I'm with her, right? And she'll be like, hey, Mom, come play with me. It's like, you're right. I need to put my phone down.
It's
I
almost
need to step
hard
away
to,
from
because you're like, I need to send this email. I need
just
to
need
check
to do this
inventory.
one more thing.
But that
Yes.
just turns into 16, 20 minutes.
Yes.
Like you're looking at where did time go?
Yeah.
It's so important that you're, okay, I'm trying to get better at that myself. And when my daughter comes up to me and is like, Dad, play with me. And I'm like, just a minute. And I stop, put my phone down. I say, what can I do, honey?
Yeah.
How do you, what do you want me to do?
Yep.
And it's so hard. And,
Yeah.
But it's so rewarding to be able to see that our kids long for our attention. They want to spend time with us.
Yeah.
And it means that you're doing a great job. So
Yeah.
great mothering right there. So
I try, and it forces me to also be better with my time during the day when I am at the store.
Oh, it does.
You know, so there's days where I'm a single parent to her, and so there's days where, you know, I have to leave at a certain time to go get her. Like I don't have someone to kind of fall back on for that, and so those days are I know when I get to the store at 8:00 in the morning after I drop her off.
You have a list of tasks that need to get done.
This
It's
has to
like
get
start
done.
knocking those off because I need to get them done.
Yep.
That's the biggest things I teach in some of my business coaching is a lot of people will have this long list of tasks and they don't know how to accomplish them all. They say at the end of the day, well, I didn't get none of this done. And normally it comes down to distractions, or it comes down to not knowing how to implement a particular task or system to be able to get those tasks done. So do you have systems and automations in place in your business? Do you have anything that kind of helps you get things done that you say you're going to get done?
Yeah, I have a alarm clock on the wall that I set time, and I'd be like, all right, 20 minutes. Do not touch your phone. Do not do all these other things.
So powerful, because our phone's a distraction. You pick it up, I'm just going to send an email, and then you find yourself on Instagram, TikTok, and you're like, what's going on? It's because your mind's just instantly go there.
Yes. So I
awesome.
honestly do. I will sometimes set myself time, and I'll just take like 2 tasks, right? So I get rid of my long list, and I'll say, okay, there's 2 things on here that I absolutely have to get done in the next 30 minutes. And I'll break it down that way. Because long lists, yes, I have long lists, but that also paralyzes me and overwhelms me. So, and especially when you get thrown off from that long list, and then you're like, to your point, I didn't get anything done today, right? You feel just so defeated. Where if I just take, okay, 2 things, that's all you got to do in the morning. Boom, done, right? And then I can start moving on. But then it's like I feel accomplished because that short little list that I really absolutely had to get done is done. And then I start kind of checking everything else out.
Get some of the most important things that you need done right away. Something I did, and my wife has actually been really good at holding me accountable to this, is I sometimes will go in the day and I have a list of things I want to get done, and something comes up that absolutely needs my attention. And I have to handle that. And then at the end of the day, I look at my list and maybe there's only one thing on there that I got done. I go to her and I tell her I'm feeling defeated that I didn't get this done. She goes, well, what else did you do? Put everything else that you did today on that list. And I do that. And then she's like, now check mark them off. And then you start check marking them off, and you can see that, wow, I actually did accomplish something. Yes. So I always like to try and get done what I have to, but there's going to be times something comes up, especially with kids. Yeah. That can be hard sometimes. Yep. You never know what can happen. You always want to be there for your kids, and that's awesome that are there always and learning that at such an early aspect in your business. So we talked, about your staffing. We talked a little bit about your obstacles, but what would you say some of your biggest struggles are right now in the business? Is there anything that you can think of that comes to the top of your head that you're struggling with in your business?
I don't know if I would say struggle. I think just still figuring it out, still learning.
We're always learning too.
Always learning. For me, a lot of, I'm not an accountant. I'm not HR. This isn't the background that I have, right? And so some of that is challenging for me because it takes me longer to grasp it. I don't always, I have to reach out to maybe multiple people, or I have to pay for resources, which I hate. I'm like, why don't you know accounting, Teresa? Come on, you have to pay somebody to do this.
Hey, but you're an expert in your field. You're an expert in what you do. And sometimes it's okay to reach out to someone else that's an expert in another field. Right. And there's another way that you're buying time. You're buying someone else's time to be able to do something that you're not an expert in. So it's good that you're doing that.
Yeah. So I think that those are probably just kind of almost everyday struggles. Those are always kind of there. For me right now, it's a what's next. It's a how do I grow? And I know I'm just 2 years in, and so I'm not talking like, how do I open up 14 shops tomorrow? It's just how do I continue to progressively grow and keep up with demand, right? As my business grows, it's how do I pivot just a little bit, or which direction do I go in making those decisions? There's going to come a point in time where just my parents' beef aren't going to be able to keep us up. Yeah. They can't supply me with enough beef to keep up with where I intend to go in the next year if we continue on the pace that we're on. And so that's okay. So what does that look like?
Where do
right?
we go? Where do we go for this? Yeah.
And you can't just come up with, more cattle overnight either. So it's a how do I then source from other farmers, but also be careful because the quality is so important. And the reason why people come back is because of the quality and because they know where it's coming from. And so it's like, you have to scale, but at like little tiny increments of like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but I can't just come up with one farm that can supply me with everything and I know everything's going to be perfect every time.
You don't want to scale too quickly where it just collapses everything. You need to make sure you have the structures, systems in place.
Absolutely.
And, that's awesome that you're sharing that, and it's great that you understand that growth is important and everything that you want to do to get there. And it's so cool to be able to talk to someone that's 2 years in and has this great mindset, mom and having kids and being able to split your time between work and personal life. Because as you said, that is one of the hardest things you can possibly do is make sure that you're there for your kids, but make sure that you're growing your business. And so your employees that's there today rely a lot on sales. Do you teach them any sales processes? Is that something that you're familiarized with, or is it just more, hey, this is what we need to sell?
So fortunately, the girl that works in the store a lot does have a little bit of a sales background. So she's at least able to communicate with people, and it's very natural. And so I think that's the biggest thing.
That's so important. The natural communication and actually genuinely wanting to help someone and get the best deal or actually get the best product. Absolutely.
So, I think that she's great at that. The one thing that I've really been focusing on is how can I give her more responsibility? How can I get her more invested in the business by feeling like she has a role, like she plays an important role? It's not just standing at a counter and ringing people up when they come in. And so there's things that we have on our list. And she's, texting me earlier saying, I put these new Father's Day bundles together for the weekend. What do you think of these? And so I've kind of got her working on some of that, kind of working for me and keeping things moving forward while I'm away doing other things. So I think that that's important. So, your general
so
sales.
So cool that something's getting done while you're away.
It's getting done, right?
It's so cool to just watch her be able to put things together like these Father's Day packages. That's awesome.
And she feels invested. And that to me, I managed people in corporate for years. And so I always felt like if they feel like they're worth something, like they're invested in it, you give them responsibilities, you empower them with these things, they're going to work even harder for you, and they're going to want more for you and your success. They're going to be part of that, right? And so I think that that's really important for me and Kelly working at the store is how do I empower her to make her feel like her opinion matters and her feedback matters, and she's helping me grow together she and I are growing the business, right? And I want to keep her around. So.
Well, it sounds like Kelly's a great employee. It sounds like she knows what she's doing. And it seems like she loves her job. I mean, just hearing that she's, texting you and ideas and coming up with things for the store and for the business, it sounds like she really wants to grow with you. And that's super important to have someone there to be able to do that. So we talked a little bit about your struggles and in staffing and, so if somebody wanted to know a little bit more about you, a little bit more information, how could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I was going to say me personally or me professionally.
Either way. Let's say they love your business advice. How could they hear about you, or what's your business Instagram?
So we've got obviously social media, Instagram, Facebook. We're at West 40 Market, all spelled out, all one word. So you guys can find us there. I love when people message me. I do the same thing. If I relate and kind of connect with somebody on social media, no matter where they live, I'll message them and be like, I love your content, or can you give me some advice on this thing, or something like that.
The connections are so powerful.
Absolutely.
One little connection you might not think goes anywhere, and then a year later that person's messaging you back.
Yes.
I'm experiencing that myself, and I have people that message me and that I've never even heard of, and they're saying, hey, thank you so much for this inspirational video. I'm like, where did that come from? It's amazing to see how powerful social media is. So you're on TikTok or Instagram,
I
Facebook?
try TikTok, so.
You're trying it, then that's what matters. You got to try things you don't necessarily know how to do, especially in business.
It's true. I have a 16-year-old friend of mine's daughter that comes in and works just a couple hours every week, and she watches my daughter
doing the
most of
TikTok
time,
dance.
And she does. I'm like, okay, here's my phone. Teach me how to TikTok.
I'm not good at TikTok either. I'm like, what am I doing this right? What button do I press? What song do I add? How do I dance.
No
and,
idea. So
that's
old.
amazing. But at least you know, hey, this is an area I need to focus on. And you're on Instagram, Facebook.
Facebook, yeah. We have a pretty big audience on both of those. And again, so we've got our website that people shop from. You can order on there to pick up in store, or we ship, like I said, nationwide. But yeah, I mean, you can connect with us at any point in time on either one of those platforms, or email us, or stop into the store, or whatever. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing a little bit about yourself and sharing about your business and your struggles and how you've overcome it, and most importantly, like how you've gotten to a point where you're able to buy some of your time back. And that's being able to step away and work on your business versus working in it. And you're 2 years in and you've already gotten to this point, and that's amazing, Teresa.
Yeah.
So you should feel accomplished there.
Thank you.
Guys, this is another episode of the Buy Time Podcast with Teresa Davis, the owner of West 40 Market. If you need any help, business related, or you're wanting to buy your time back, check out buytimepodcast.com. We have more episodes with other great guests. And if you just want to work with me personally, jacobkmead.com. Click on the link, apply, and we'll be happy to connect. Until next time,